John Gyory, and our guest, Mr. Ellis. How you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Excited to be here.
Great answer. Now let's dive right in. Could I ask you, sir, what do you do here? What do you teach?
I teach high school English, mostly the upper level and dual credit classes through MSU.
You got like mostly juniors and seniors. Do you have any
Yeah.
sophomores at all?
I have a couple of sophomores in elective courses, but mostly it's juniors and seniors.
No. Sounds like some high level classes. Do you what did you major in? Like, what's your education for being here?
In college, I majored in English instead of education, and then I got a master's degree in English from Truman State University. It's currently the fifth ranked graduate school in the country. I went to be a college professor, and I taught college for 2 years, and then found a position at a high school that had a teacher leave with 2 weeks till the school year started. So I accepted the spot and found I really liked it, but it was only a 1 year position. So I got an actual certification to teach high school and then ended up getting a job here.
Then why'd you come over here if you had those opportunities at the college?
Well, college teaching offers different challenges and different benefits. So I don't have to deal with disciplinary issues in a college class, and I don't have to deal with parents or much in the way of policy. I'm free to do pretty much whatever I want to. But the students are less engaged overall. A lot of them are looking for ways to make themselves marketable, and it's harder to get buy-in from them. So high school in some ways is a lot more fun.
Are they like more engaged or something, or more motivated, perhaps?
More, perhaps better to say that high school students can sometimes still get excited about things because they have a genuine interest in it and they aren't overly concerned with how can I bend this thing to make money. And I found in college that's what a lot of people were more concerned with, is making themselves marketable and getting a job and just jumping through whatever hurdles and checking whatever boxes instead of actually being interested in the material.
Interesting. Also, you also run an extracurriculars then, right?
I have several extracurricular activities. I host the game club that meets Thursdays after school, and I coach the esports team.
Could you tell us about the first one?
Game Club is for board games and video games and collectible card games, and any high school student can come in and for a couple hours every week play whatever games they want to. We have games that we play just at Game Club that we've created for the group members. We've got video games that we play. Occasionally throughout the years we host tournaments and other events where you can compete against other gamers and stuff like that. We have lock-ins where you come in and play for 12 hours straight and have hosted dinners and custom-made trivia nights, things like that.
Which is always a fun. Speaking from experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never got the opportunity to do that. I was always busy with other things, but sounds like a great pause from all the teaching of the higher level classes. I assume you enjoy this.
Well, I do. I enjoy both teaching and Game Club, and that's why I continue to do them.
How long have you been doing this?
Which, the teaching or hosting Game Club?
Do the teaching first.
This is my 11th year at this school. It's my 12th in high school education, and if you count in college, then 14 in education overall as a teacher.
So you devoted your whole life to this thing?
Well, my whole life as an adult, certainly, yeah. I've worked in other fields and done other things and didn't enjoy them as much. Found in most business applications, when you do a good job, what you do is just make someone else a lot more money. Whereas here, if I do a good job, I give you a better chance at surviving in the world.
Sounds great, sir. How long have you been doing the game club?
I started that my second semester of my first year here. So 10 years and change at this point.
And coaching esports?
Coaching esports is a relatively new thing. We tried it a couple different points in time, and due to technology issues couldn't get it off the ground. And in this particular run, with formal backing by the school this time, this is, I think, our third or fourth year for esports. I don't remember which.
Fourth, because it's been a thing since my 8th grade.
Okay, so I guess it's fourth year. And Misha recognizes esports as an activity at present, but it's not actually a formal competition thing yet. I expect it to be accepted as such soon, because the Olympics committee universally voted to have esports in the Olympics on the next round.
Yes.
Yep. And so I have a feeling Misha and the other state organizations that manage competitions are waiting to see which games and competitions specifically make it into the Olympics, and they may perhaps base their decision on which games they offer on that. They might also do player count or based on scholarships. League of Legends is still the largest competitive multiplayer game that is played, and every local college and every major university in the state has at least a League of Legends team, but they also have some others. Sometimes they have Counter-Strike Global Offensive or Apex Legends. Some even have Smash Bros, things like that.
Is that often that the organizations model their things off the Olympics?
I don't know, because we haven't encountered, to my mind, a situation like this in recent history. Most of the sports that we compete with have been sports and considered sports for a very long time. Esports was very late to the scene because a lot of people didn't feel perhaps like it qualified as a sport because it doesn't involve athletic competition from their perspective, the same way that often chess wasn't considered a sport, but it's a competition, a competitive event. But esports is starting to gain quite a bit more recognition in that field.
Now you talked about technology and such. You said that we had like difficulties with that.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us a bit more about that? How you overcame?
Sure. Well, the school networks are required to run under certain security parameters in order to protect the privacy of our students. That's a legal issue. And early on, we had difficulty finding a way to connect to the servers and to the different services that we would need in order to play the games and still guarantee the privacy of our network. And so the few years we tried having a separate network just for esports, and that was difficult to maintain. And then more recently, we did a bit more research and found ways to connect that are not in violation of any of those and don't share any information with the host service.
So it's more of a restrictions issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, John, you are on the esports team, aren't you?
I am on the esports team.
Can you tell us a bit more about your experience with that and how it relates to Ellis here?
Well, Mr. Ellis, as you know, is the coach, so that does relate to him. But also, it's like more of connecting students and getting them engaged too. I guess, as he's been mentioning, he's getting more things to engage with other students. Like, I joined esports my sophomore year, and I've always just been engaged with school and education because I have to have good grades because of it now. I'm one of the captains, so is Timothy Norris.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying it. There's not that much else to say. I'm also one of the leaders of Game Club too. It's been fun doing that. I do recommend, if you ever have any free time, Ethan, to join Game Club, or at least go to a Game Club night.
You hear that, folks? Listen to this guy. We all should join it right now, actually.
Yeah, right now.
Exactly.
Do it. Show up after school.
Now, you seem to know quite a bit about the restrictions, about the restrictions technology. You go into a lot of detail of all the things you talked about. Do you just enjoy learning about all these things?
I feel it's really important whenever you're making decisions or trying to lead in any aspect that you understand as much as you can about it, so you can make the most informed decision possible. So if anyone asks, why are you offering these things? Why do you believe what you do about education in any respect? I have a valid answer and I have a way to defend our position. I don't think making decisions without clear information like that is a good idea. Sometimes you have to. You don't have time to do research on everything that you do. But if it's a program I'm hosting and something that I'm saying we need to do as a school, I need to know as much about it as possible in order to explain it to any parent or administrator or anyone who wants to know, what are you doing, why are you doing this? It's because it's in the best interest of the students, and that's why we do everything.
On that note, I recall you told us a couple weeks ago you were on the board that was creating an AI policy for the school.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about what happened there, what they're trying to accomplish.
Sure. Well, the AI policy has been adopted by the school board, and it's formally in the handbook online, and will be in the next printed version whenever that happens, if we're still printing them, I suppose. I have a master's in English, and I am working in the evenings. I'm contracted with a company that needs professionals in linguistics to train language models for AI. So I spend time teaching AI how to phrase things and how to speak and how to cite things, and essentially teaching it the same way I do students, more or less, but to a greater degree of detail as far as syntax and sentence structure, things like that. Um, as such, I've seen what the brand new models are capable of doing and the direction artificial intelligence is heading, and I took to the administration and the school board information about this and argued that essentially we have to be preparing our students for a future that involves AI at a very individual and personal level, because it's going to be a part of your lives, and you as students are going to have to know how to use it to survive. The same way that 10, 15 years ago, if you couldn't type on a keyboard, you'd have a hard time getting a job. So it's going to be a similar circumstance. As such, our AI policy at present is allowing students and teachers both to use AI for educational purposes, and the policy gives some fairly specific guidance on what is approved usage and what is not approved usages, and it all fits within our existing technology policy. But the idea is we need to be using artificial intelligence as a tool, the same way one might use a calculator or spell check on word processing, in order to get your points across and to further your work. It should allow you to do much more than you would be capable of without it.
It enhances your work, not does it for you.
That's exactly the idea, yes. And anyone who's spent a significant amount of time with AI understands that AI can do some work for you, but a higher level thinking skills need to be relying on humans, where as far as pedagogy, the study of education and learning and how people learn goes, they're considered four like depth of knowledges. So the first two are, recall and production is higher up there. You get into critical thinking skills, and that's where you have to have humans involved. And when you look at it this way, you say, well, I have a calculator, I don't have to do math anymore. That's not how that works. If you don't know how the formula functions and which formula to use and how to put it all together in the calculator, then that calculator isn't any use to you. Artificial intelligence is the same way. If we don't teach you how to use it effectively, then you're going to just go to it and it'll produce things that aren't of value and don't meet the requirements of your assignment or your boss when you get into a career. And while the outputs are very important, how you get there is equally important, because if you don't find the right path, you're not going to get to the right destination.
Do you think because of this school, the school would have a class over it, like a semester class or something?
I don't know if we'll have a class dedicated to artificial intelligence. That would be an interesting concept and something I've considered, especially in the realm of English. Instead, what we're doing is, as the resident expert in AI for the school, I suppose, my English 3 classes are learning how AI functions and how to use it to enhance their learning, to help them with research, to help them with phrasing, to look over and review papers for them, and looking at the versatility of different platforms and what they have to offer. And the hope is that we can get educators trained over the next year or two on how AI functions and keep them on the cusp and on the edge of what is happening in the field, so they can better transmit information to students. And so, much like computer work, AI work should be present in all of your classes, not just in a specific class.
And then you as an English teacher, you said that you're teaching your English classes, especially your LA3, how to use it to write effectively.
Mm-hmm.
What are the outcomes that you've seen with that? Are students using it effectively, or is it kind of like a mix thing?
It's a mix. We're still in the early stages of figuring out how to evaluate. We've had to adjust, as a country, we'll have to adjust shortly, but I personally have had to adjust how we're teaching and how we're evaluating students. If I assign you a research paper, I can't guarantee that you're the one that did the thinking or the writing, because artificial intelligence is getting good enough. I'm not going to be able to tell. And so what it turns into is, instead of evaluating outputs, instead of grading papers, we need to follow you throughout the process and evaluate the process that you're using and give direct instruction on the process, not the outcome, which arguably should have been that way all along, but that's a much harder target to hit. especially because different students have different writing processes and different ways of getting to the research and things like that. And so it'll allow us to diversify our education, but right now there's not a great structure set up for that, and there's not a lot of really good guidance out there for it. So we're kind of experimenting and trying different things to see what works best to make sure that all of our learning objectives for students are met using that AI as a tool.
Like, when we're writing our papers in your classes, right, you assigned us a few for college English. How exactly, like, you changing the way that you grade? Because you tell us you still need to put in a number at the end of it, so it can go on the A scale, on the A, B, C scale. How are you adjusting the grading to account for all this?
Part of that is conversations with students on an individual basis. Like you and I had a long conversation about a couple of your papers and how you structured them and what happens. And through conversations like that, it becomes apparent how much the student has put into as far as thought or work or effort in the writing process. So individual conversations, your college English class right now is having a debate between two different groups regarding immigration. And while AI was probably used to help put the ideas together or put the research or even the paper together, when you're discussing and debating, you don't have the AI platform in front of you to tell you what to say. So you've got to be able to read and understand and synthesize the information and present it reliably. So the onus of proving your point is still on you. It's not on the AI. And if you accept a bad argument, whether it was produced by AI or another person, then you're the one who has to explain that. And that's really where we're shifting a lot of our focus, specifically in college English.
See how much the student actually engaged with the material as opposed to what came out.
Because what it comes down to is, if you're clever and you know how AI functions, you'll be able to use it for almost everything in your personal and professional life. But at some point, it will catch up to you. You will sit down for an interview or have to talk to your supervisor about something, and he'll have clear, focused questions, or she'll want to know where you got your information. And if you can't answer those questions, then you're not likely to keep a job.
Or like the example that you told us about how, like, if you were to get a master's, for example, they're going to ask you about every single word that you put in there.
For my master's thesis defense, they went through 60 pages of writing and picked out specific words or specific phrases and said, why did you use this one? I don't think it's the best phrase you could have put here. And I had to defend why I used that exact phrasing and not another one. And if you can't defend those ideas, then you don't get your degree.
Sounds stressful.
Yeah. I'd spent so much time with the writing at that point, I knew exactly why I chose everything. That's kind of the point. It's stressful if you didn't put the time in, and if you didn't do a word-by-word, line-by-line analysis of why you're writing what you are. But by the time you get to that point in your education, you should be doing that.
All right. Well, anything you want to ask, Joe?
No.
No? Well, thank you, Mr. Ellis, for your time. Any closing remarks you have for the camera?
Not offhand, it's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else you guys produce this year.
No? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And that concludes this end of the Licking Podcast episode. I'm your host, Ethan Domenech.
I'm your co-host, John Gyory, and our guest,
Mr. Colin Ellis.